Gang, gang, what's up, boys?
Gang, gang.
So Zachary has unfortunately fallen at the last hour on account of his inability to conceive of the idea of time zones and also broadband internet. We got the rest of the boys on the call. And so I put up a post this week, kind of taking the piss of the meme of the two guys pissing, where the guy walks across like 20 urinals to get to the one guy and talk to him. And of course it said, it was basically like one of those recruiting emails like, hey coach, with a bunch of stats and all that kind of stuff. And I look forward to it, which is basically the archetypal, this is not how you sell yourself or network or recruit. So I thought, what would be your strategies for how to strategically network would be a good one to discuss. So the Keen, seeing as you have the most senior job of anyone on this call, seeing as I'm unemployed, what is your go-to?
I mean, technically Terrence is like the head man in charge, but I'll take it. I do think the most genuine connections I've made in the field have come very organically and developed as legitimate relationships, not as, hey, let me hit you up on LinkedIn or on any other social media platform with the intent strictly to have had a prior conversation with you that I can leverage for myself in the future. So like, I just think it's, you know, looking to genuinely engage with people on social media, because that's obviously very prevalent. And, you know, quite frankly, for our group chat, the vast majority of people in that group I've just met through conversations that we've had, and, you know, not just talking training all the time, but talking life, talking about everything else around it. And then, you know, occasionally dabbling in work conversation. But I think people have this idea that you're supposed to go out and like just say, hey, I want to network with you, but it comes across totally inauthentic because it's strictly a transactional process. Whereas, you know, the people that I consider to be in my inner circle are people that I've developed genuine connections with. And, you know, even though like Zach, for example, like I've met everybody on this video chat right now, but like Zach's one who I haven't met before, but I know if I called him in a pinch for something, because we've actually developed a relationship predicated on not just work, but on life and on, you know, having it more in-depth conversations, that he's somebody I could call in a pinch and he would help me out. So I think a lot of people get it conflated as like, it's this like, there's a divide between relationship building and networking, when really they're one and the same. And what's going to end up benefiting you more is when you have that genuine relationship with somebody, and then it just gets casually floated if there's an opportunity that passes, you know, hey, I heard about this, thought this might be something you're interested in, versus just reaching out because you say, hey, you know, we've talked once before and I asked you a question or what have you. And, you know, I want to see if you know of any jobs or anything that are open that you could put a word in for me. So it's one and the same, networking and relationship building. And I think if you go at it with the lens of you're looking to develop genuine connections and relationships with other people who are in the same field as you, that's a much better way of going at it than seeing it as I've got to network, if that makes sense.
So, I mean, I know you met Corum originally at CVASP's 14, 15?
Yep.
15. Did you ask him explicitly for an internship after that, or what?
So I did. So I enjoy my my getting my start story, if you will, because I had been following it. I think it's very funny parallel, because a lot of what you have alluded to before about knowing him was that you were holding up his work that he was doing at Kentucky and saying that.
Right, I see. I met him, but he didn't meet me. I had to remember.
That's probably how it went with me too, except he thought I was just a stalker at the time. But no, that was that was me having like read about the things that and seen some of the videos about what they were doing at Kentucky, and me just kind of having this like light bulb moment of realizing that's what sports should be, just because a lot of it clicked with what James Smith was writing about on Elite FTS back in the early 2010s, late 2000s. And so I had a chance to go out to CVAPS and see him speak, which was like the first actual coaching conference I had gone to.
As a one to go to first.
Huh?
It's a good start.
It was a very good start because it was like this like swift kick off of the peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect of realizing how much I did not know when you've got like Michael Reynolds there talking about using analytics and talent identification, and then Eric's talking about the high performance model, and like Ben Peterson and Cal Dietz were all speaking about things they were working on at the time, and it was just like, holy crap, I thought I was sweet with my 5-through-1 training program at a high school, and just realizing how much more complexity there was to the field and how much deeper it can go. But I went up to Eric like completely just cold, basically tapped him on the shoulder and said, you know, after I stammered through my words, because he was like this like icon to me, still is, but much less intimidating at this point. But I just went up to him and I told him, you know, I loved what he was doing at Kentucky and I'd love to come be a part of it if he had an opportunity for me. And so he gave me his card and said, you know, send my details along. And that ended up being the catalyst for what is now, you know, a very close friend and mentor and somebody that really helped me to get along to all the places that I've been in my career. And like, you know, obviously I went to intern for him, but then he was one of the people that recommended me for my graduate assistantship. And then obviously bringing me on at William & Mary, and then knowing my last boss over on the football side at Arizona, because they worked together, he recommended me for that. And so it was, you know, just.
Oh, they did? Where did they work together?
That would have been Florida State back in early 2010s, I think. Mm-hmm. So again, just, you know, I struck gold. Like I had a very linear path upward within my career, and I don't take that for granted, but I think I had the right North Star about the way to go about this profession, and you know, who the people are to look towards, and you know, who they derive as their influences and how they do their job. And again, I struck gold with Eric, and he's been heavily influential ever since, and will be heavily influential going forward.
Don't mention me, it's fine. JJ.
I'll mention you then.
And the rugby guy.
Absolutely not, no.
I think it's just everything Scott said. You've got to put yourself in a position where those people are going to be. So, like, you know, for example, Kia, you were obviously you've given me the job I've got now. So that network clearly works out.
The moon.
And I think I emailed you a few times first, didn't I? And then you started programming for me. And then we met at Arite's seminar, yeah. And then
no, I think we met before.
That was quite brief.
What was the one Steph did? Like the one day.
Oh, the one at Wellington. Yeah. Yeah, you went and presented.
Yeah, where I had to go present in front of Lewis Moody about how to be successful. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we just had a conversation upstairs, didn't we? That was the start of it, I think. And then it's like Scott said, it's got to be authentic. You can't force it. And then, you know, that we sort of built that relationship from there. And then obviously if you find someone like yourself who has a much broader network, then, you know, your network instantaneously grows. Because I could get in contact with you and say, oh, do you know someone in X? And you could hit me up, and then, okay, my network's just grown a little bit more. You know, there is a certain place you can do that online called Strength Fresh Network. So if you're not, you should probably sign up.
Strength coaches come to learn. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
That should be a website. Somebody should do that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You work.
So yeah, that would be for me. It's just finding that person that's got that broader network. There's no point. I mean, you can, but networking with someone that's got no further network.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much return on that relationship.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think you have to be a little bit. You can be deliberate whilst being genuine.
Yeah.
Because it is. I think it's the way that I always try to go into it is, you know, it sounds so fucking cringy, but it's just like that kind of mantra that if you help enough people in life get ahead, eventually they'll help you get ahead. So, I mean, I've said it to death, but like I really got shafted for a job about 10 years ago. And I read the book Never Eat Alone. And it changed my career after I read it. And it's like the analogy he used in that book is that relationship is a muscle and it has to be worked. And it's like you never ask without giving first. So it's like the way that I tried to go about it was everyone that I would meet, whatever I could do to help them, I would try and do something to help them first. And it is cynical, but I always treat it like a sales funnel where there's going to be a lot of people that go in the top, and there's only going to be 1 or 2 people that actually give you what you want out of the bottom or really help you advance your career. But if you go into it with that kind of mindset, the worst that can happen is you help 100 people. But I think one of the things that I've realized throughout my career is earlier, I think it's true of what you do in your career as well, which is early on breadth, later on depth. There's going to be a very few limited number of people that really advance your career. And I think if you're always off doing the rounds at a conference, pressing the flesh, hello, nice to meet you, hello, nice to meet you, all that kind of, you never get to that level. But yeah, I used to say yes to everything in my career. Like I met Jay because I was talking to some stranger on the internet about Soviet training because I searched his name on the internet and that and Verkhoshansky came up. And he's like, oh, rather than ask me questions, just come and check out this conference. So I flew to New York, met this stranger, drove down to Richmond. I met Jay, and Jay introduced me to Verkhoshansky, Yesis, Louis Simmons, all those people. So actually, it was. Sorry.
Do you think like having a presence, whether it be online or in terms of your own work, has an influence on building that network? So, like for example, if I'm big in an area, you're more likely to network with me if you're big in another area.
Exos, when they were Athletes Performance, that's how long ago I spoke to Brent Calloway. I was an intern at WASP, so this is like 2010, 2011. And I was just blogging or whatever, and it was terrible. But he just like literally contacted me through my website, trainingbycare.co.uk, and said, hey, I work for Athletes Performance. I was like, never heard of him. He's like, if rugby goes professional in the USA, would you like to come and work with the team? I was like, bro, of course. Like, money, yes. But he would not have found me if it was not for that. And it is a double-edged sword because the more you poke your head up, the more people are going to take shots at you. Des Ryan said to me, you will never work for Arsenal Football Club because you are too opinionated and you don't use the Olympic list. And I was like, but you've heard of me. It was literally that got me an invitation to go and present. My presence.
I got my last job from an Instagram post.
Yeah.
Say directly, but like it was a post that sparked the conversation that they were looking for somebody that could do what I can do with GPS. And that opened the door. So it's absolutely opened the door. Huh?
It's a shop window.
Yeah.
It's a professional shop window.
Absolutely.
Terrence, the king of networking from America to Japan to the UK and back to America. Give it to me, brother.
I think some of networking is where you're at in your career. Like when you're super early on, or like you're in uni, you're like coming fresh out like uni, like college or whatever. Like you kind of just have to. Like I used to say it to Astros to their staff. I'm like, fucking just slide in other coaches' fucking DMs. Like it's a woman. Like who cares? Like they don't answer you back. Okay, what's they gonna say? Get nothing back. Yeah, like just ask. Like just if you have a question, just ask them. You find most people, like most SNC coaches, stuff, are pretty open and will answer at least 1 or 2 questions, as long as you're not sending them some long paragraph that takes time out of the day to answer. And you're not constantly like bothering them with a question every single post they have. But then once you get to a point, like kind of you said, with like a lot of breadth, and then comes more depth, you find those people who you connect more with. They're doing things you want to do. They do things interesting. They make you spark conversation. They spark different thought. Like you don't all think the same as well. Like you have people who maybe think slightly different than you, different approaches, and you find that you gain more depth and you build more relationships with those people, and that's where you get more value out of it. So I think it's all just stages of your career. Like I would say I reach out to a lot less. I'm probably much less coaches now than I did 5 years ago. I'm coaching for 7 years now, but the people I talk to more regularly. Like talk to you guys all the time, and then I ask deeper questions. It's not like, what do you think? What about this exercise for this outcome? Like, who gives a shit? Like, so I think that's where it kind of changes. It's similar to like the stages of your career. Your responsibilities change. Your network will change. The questions you ask change. Your conversations will change. And if they're not changing, then you're probably doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago.
I'll add to that too, because
don't change the program, obviously.
I'll add to that too, because like a few years ago, there was like Kurt Hester was putting some stuff out, and I forget what the exact discussion was, but he just like openly invited people to submit their thoughts and opinions on what the issue was. I want to say it was around like the lack of holisticness towards the accreditation process within strength and conditioning. And I sent him an email response to it, and we had a quick back and forth, but that was it. And then a few months later, he is cold calling me saying that he's got an internship available at Louisiana Tech. And he said the reason he called me was because he was just going back through email exchanges that he had and saw mine and decided to give me a call. So even if, coaches who you feel quote unquote are out of your league are prompting things like that, give them a response, because it at least primes them towards you, your picture, who you are, and puts you on their radar. And you never know when it could come back around in the way that you want it to, which obviously for me was a potential opportunity to go work with him.
Yeah, 100%. I think like that, and also like find people who are doing things you want to do. Like if you want to be, if you're not in S&C, something else, you want to be a big like Wall Street investor. It's like, don't talk to the person who's about Wall Street investing who doesn't do that thing. It's like, find people who do that thing and then learn from them. Like I knew I wanted to work in rugby, and so I applied for Kier's internship. Even though I already had an internship in North Dakota, I left in 2 days' notice to go to Japan. And then I knew I still wanted to work in rugby. So okay, it's not going to happen in the U.S. Like it'd be ridiculous. Like MLR is a thing, but like it's still like very amateur. Like, it's not taken seriously at all. It's a bunch of old fucks. So like you go to. I was like, okay, I need to do my masters in the UK or Australia, because those are two places with rugby.
Remember that conversation we had? It's like you can name like literally families or friendship groups in hip hop that are responsible for millions and millions of sales. But then you're like, okay, name a rapper from Nebraska. So it's like if you want to be hip hop, you go to like LA, New York, or Atlanta, and that's it. Yeah, pretty much. It's like what's his name? Who always shares posts. The producer who I listen to his podcast too. It's like he was in New York at the time hip hop was starting. Yeah. He was going to NYU at the time hip hop was starting. So you have to go to Rick Rubin?
Rick Rubin. It's like even like going to Australia, maybe it could have been cool, but there's sport rugby union teams and there's an NRL and 23 million people. You go to the UK, there's the Premiership, there's Championship, there's a Pro 12 right next door in Ireland, Wales, and Scotland.
I mean, there's people getting paid as low as like Nat 2, Nat 1 in England. Exactly. Well, but there is money. Yeah, there's part-time club. Like there's lots, and there's 60, 70 million people as far as the population goes, as opposed to Australia. So it was like finding those kind of decisions. And I think when you have a network and you reach out to people who do those things, they can help you guide you down that path. Like if I want to work in NFL, I'm not going to talk to someone who works in volleyball but working in NFL. It's like, hey, they don't work in NFL. I want to find people who have done it, or at least know people who've done it really well.
That was exactly why I wanted to go to that conference, was to hear Eric speak about the high performance model, because to me that just registered as like, this is what sport preparation should be. It shouldn't be this siloed approach that I was experiencing as an athlete myself. It should be something that's very synergistically done with the intent to push the athlete in the same direction rather than pull them in a myriad of directions. And hearing Eric I think those videos are still up on YouTube to this day, talk about what it was that they were looking to do there, and what they had gotten pretty close to from my experience interning there. It struck a chord with me. And so it was like, if I hold this to be true and to be my North Star as a practitioner, why would I go anywhere else but to the source to learn how to do it and to, network with people that he's going to be very like-minded with. And it was a really cool experience because there was like, at one point they were bringing in people from like the Greater Western Sydney Giants and a couple other Australian rules football.
Oh, is that David Joyce?
No, I forget who it was, but it was like I got to drive him to the airport, so I got to talk shop with him for an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was. So just like getting connected to those people and getting influenced by them was really fucking cool.
I volunteered to drive Dan Paff to and from the airport once. Let me just pick up that name I dropped on you. No, like I don't Eric. Like I definitely. I mean, it's obvious, but like, was I going to get to the NFL being the rugby guy, or being the bottom assistant at University of Richmond? Probably not in this lifetime, but like a guy that had already worked in the NFL, if I could, be invaluable to him or be indispensable to him, that was like thinking logically that was going to be a much easier career path for me to get to the NFL. So what I tried to basically make it impossible for him to go anywhere without taking me with him. Obviously it worked out great for both of us.
Yeah.
But
I think one of the biggest factors is like one of the biggest factors people don't do enough of is reaching out to people who are doing the thing in the spaces they want to do it in. Like there's not enough of that. Like I know when I started working with the fighters, when I was in the UK, I already spoken to Waylon once. But one first thing I did was get on the phone and like call Will and talk to him about, hey, like I have these two MMA fighters that both ready for a fight. I've never trained fighters in my life. And speak to someone who's trained fighters in the UFC, Cage Warriors, Bellator. So like he probably has a better idea than I do. Like, and it's the same like when I knew I wanted to leave baseball and get out, and there were chances of me going to NBA or going into soccer. Like I was speaking to Daniel Guzman at LAFC like once every 2 or 3 weeks. I spoke to Dave Tenney on the phone, like talking to Frank, talking to Devins. They're people who were doing the thing. They were working in soccer. In the basketball, I was talking to Jay. Still, I was spoken to Tenney, who's working in NBA. So like, it's finding people who are doing that thing and like actually talking to them instead of like talking to somebody who's never done it. Like, what can they tell you that you can't look up yourself, really?
Go by Team Builder.
Cheers, guys.